How to make crunchy chinchin, a Milky Nigeria chinchin without butter. I'm going to show you a tip of how to make a crunchy chinchin. Watch this video to the end to learn the recipe. So I'll be using one egg room temperature. Also, I'll be using evaporated milk. I've received so many questions. Can you use making your chinchin? This recipe is going to tell you how to use a perfect half cup of evaporated milk for your chinchin. So I'll be using 1 teaspoon of salt. You are going to need salt for this recipe. This chinchin recipe call for salt. So we are supposed to use butter for our chinchin. It also call for butter or margarine. But if you do not have, you can use other alternative, which is vegetable oil, any vegetable oil of your choice. I'm using 3 teaspoons. Basically, making chinchin call for different types of spice or flavor that will give it a nice flavor. So I'll be using two type of flavor. I'm using nutmeg and also I'll be using vanilla extract. Try, you can use any flavor of your choice. As for the sweetener, you can use sugar. I'm using half cup of sugar. You can also use honey. If you're using honey to get a perfect sweet for this recipe, add 1 cup. Combine all your ingredients. This is a perfect chinchin. Chinchin is one of those recipes for you to learn how to cook and it's very easy to follow. It's a very simple recipe with simple ingredients that you can make at home. You can make chinchin with just few ingredients and you get a perfect chinchin recipe. It's also easy to follow. So I'll be using 3 cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose flour, which is a plain flour as well. Let me give you a quickly tips of making a chinchin. You can add any different flavor of your choice. It can be ginger, it can be garlic, it can be powdered ginger, it can also be powdered garlic. You can add any flavor. It can also be powdered cinnamon. Anyone you like is also fine. But just take a note, there are some ingredients that compulsory when you are making your chinchin. So I'll be using 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm going to combine all my ingredients. As you can see, I try to mix my wet ingredients. You can decide to add everything at once and mix it, but to get that perfect ingredients, just follow this video to the end and you get a perfect crunchy chinchin. Chinchin is a crispy fried snacks. It's also popular in Nigeria, other African countries. Chinchin can be a great party snack. You can eat chinchin with tea. You can serve it with tea, coffee, and you can also eat it as just a plain snacks. Once you get a perfect measurement of your ingredients, like your flour, your sugar, your baking powder, your salt, your oil, and your evaporated milk, you get a perfect chinchin recipe and the recipe will never fail. So follow this recipe to the end and it will not fail and it come out perfect the way you want if you are struggling to get a perfect chinchin recipe. As I said, chinchin is it can be a great way to learn how to cook, how to bake, and you just need, after you follow the basic instruction, and also you don't really need a big tools or a special tools to make this chinchin recipe. So I'll be adding 3 tablespoons of water. You don't need to add too much water. As you can see, the dough is not too soft, it's not too hard. This is how it's supposed to be when you follow the measurement right. This chinchin recipe will never fail you. It come out very crunchy and it also come out crispy the way you want your chinchin to be. If you are trying to make chinchin recipe for a commercial, like you are trying to sell your chinchin and you want to start small, this is a perfect recipe for you to try to start small. The taste is unique and it is only your recipe. As I said, if you're going into a business, you have to be yourself. I have a question in my previous chinchin recipe. If you can add corn flour to the ingredients, I've never tried that and I don't have experience about that. So I don't know if it works. So I've not make a research on that. So I don't know if corn flour works for making chinchin. With my years of experience with my other recipes, I've never tried corn flour on my chinchin recipe. In the surface, add a little flour, roll your dough and make it flat, then we start cutting our chinchin. You can decide to cut your chinchin to any shape, any size. You can make it long, you can make it round, you can make it for corner, any shape you feel like cutting your chinchin. But take a note, one tip I want you to take a note when you are cutting your chinchin: try to cut it as small as possible, and also try to make it as flat as possible, not too thick, very flat, because once the dough gets in the oil, it's going to rise. So it's going to be like twice the size, it's going to rise. And if you don't like it too big, so it's better you roll your dough very flat and also cut it very slim, just the way I'm doing in the video. You can use knife, you can also use pizza cutter. So I'm just going to cut it freely. As I said, if you want to cut it very long, you can do it as that, but this is how I'm going to cut mine for this recipe. My kids like any shape I make for chinchin, so they all always enjoy the chinchin recipe. So let me know this shape you like in cutting your chinchin in the comment section. Please feel free to ask questions regarding the chinchin recipe and my previous chinchin recipe. If you have a lot of questions about it, please feel free to ask. I'm here to help, and I'm also here to share my experience about making chinchin. I want you to get the perfect result. So try to separate it. And one quick tip about chinchin: let your oil to be hot before you put it into the oil, and also allow your dough to dry, like let it dry after cutting it. Leave it in the surface for a couple of minutes so it will be dry before you fry it, so it will come out golden color, and it's also come out perfect the way you want it. Chinchin is always crunchy once you follow the recipe and you follow the right measurement. This is a perfect recipe, and it's not going to fail you. It's not going to be too soft, it's not going to be too dry, it's not going to be too crunchy as well. It all depends on how you fry it. Fry your chinchin in a medium heat, do not overheat it. And when you are frying it, remember to stir it around so some will not get golden color fast or golden brown fast. So everything will get golden brown at once. If you want your chinch to be very hard, you have to leave it in the oil to fry a longer time. If you want it to be not too hard, not too soft, you just fry it a little. Once it's a little bit golden brown, you remove it out of the oil and let it dry. Like put it in kitchen paper to extract the excess oil. There's this common question about why does my chinchin oil always bubbles, like show bubbles when you are frying your chinchin. The first time you fry your chinchin, it should not come out, like you will not find bubbles in the oil, but the more you use it, the more you find bubbles. So this is the second batch of my frying of my chinchin, so that's the reason you can see the bubbles. So once it's a little bit golden brown, just bring it out. If you don't like it too crunchy, like too dry, as at this, I'm going to leave it a little bit. So I want mine to be a little bit crunchy. But my 2 years old like chinchin a lot. I don't want it to be too hard. So I'm going to bring it out. Now at this time, it's perfectly ready to be dry and served. Our chinchin is ready, so I'm going to put it in kitchen paper towel to extract the excess oil. It's golden brown, and this is how I want it because of my 2 years old. I don't want it to be too crunchy, and I don't want it to be too hard. So this is the outcome. If you have any question about this chinchin recipe, please do not forget to leave it in the comment section. I'm always here to answer your questions, and we like learning more and giving you good tips of to get a perfect chinchin recipe. So this is how it looks. Feel free to enjoy it and feel free to share this recipe. Please do not forget to like this video. To see more of my snacks, my recipe, my recipe, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you get updated of my new video. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you again.